She looked right at me. Not the baby, not her son, me. And then she said it. "That baby can't be our blood." The room went quiet. You could hear the beeping from the IV pump, the distant sound of a baby crying in another room. My arms tightened around Luna. Caleb turned to me, blinking like he'd just woken up inside someone else's life. I could see the confusion crawling across his face, like he was trying to make sense of something that didn't need explaining. But me? I just smiled. Not the kind of smile that says, "I'm okay." No. The kind that says, "I see exactly what you're doing, and I'm not playing into it this time." Because what she didn't know, what no one in that room knew, was that I'd already taken steps. I already knew the truth. And it wasn't the kind she was expecting. Then the door opened, and Anne walked the doctor, holding a manila folder, test results inside. And he said, "Actually, there's something you need to know." When Caleb and I first met, we were just two broke students sharing a library table at the University of Michigan. He had this nervous energy, always drumming his fingers on the desk, like his thoughts moved too fast for his mouth to catch up. I was the opposite. Observant, cautious, the kind of person who sits in silence until something important needs to be said. Maybe that's why we worked. He made me laugh. I helped him slow down. We balanced each other. After graduation, we moved to Chicago, got married in a tiny courthouse ceremony with my dad and my younger sister standing beside us. Caleb's parents didn't come. Vivian said it was too rushed, and that a real wedding should wait until the Monroes could plan it properly. But we didn't wait. Love doesn't always wait. I'd be lying if I said her disapproval didn't sting. She never yelled, never called me names. No, Vivian's weapon of choice was silence. Cold, calculated silence. And when she did speak, it was always loaded. "Are you sure this is the best you can do, Caleb?" Or, "She seems emotional. Isn't stability important in a marriage?" Still, we tried. Every holiday, every birthday, we invited her. Sometimes she showed up, sometimes she didn't. Caleb always said, "She'll come around." I wanted to believe that. When we started trying for a baby, it felt like a fresh chapter. We were hopeful, maybe even naive, but then came the first miscarriage, and the second. The doctors told me I had endometriosis and that getting pregnant would be difficult. Every month became a waiting game, and every negative test felt like a personal failure. Like my body was betraying me over and over again. Vivian's sympathy was limited. "Maybe it's just not meant to be," she told Caleb once. Not me. She never said it to my face. My dad, Ronald, tried to be there for me. He's this steady, quiet man, a retired mail carrier who raised my sister and me after our mom passed. He doesn't say much, but when he does, it matters. He called me every Sunday just to check in. My sister June, who's in nursing school in Texas, would text me memes and thinking of you selfies at 3 a.m. Sometimes I cried reading them. Then, just when we'd started considering adoption, it happened. I was late. I didn't even take a test right away because I couldn't bear another disappointment. But then I did, and it was positive. I showed Caleb the test while we were brushing our teeth. He looked at it, then at me, and dropped his toothbrush in the sink. We laughed and cried with toothpaste still on our mouths. The pregnancy wasn't easy. I had horrible morning sickness, nerve pain, and near-constant anxiety. Every ultrasound felt like a tightrope walk, but each time the heartbeat was there, strong, defiant. Like she was telling the world, "I'm coming. Deal with it." Vivian didn't say much. No gifts, no congratulations, just a single phone call where she said, "Let me know when you find out the gender." That was it. I gave birth to Luna after 17 hours of labor. She came out red-faced and squirmy, with a full head of black hair and the biggest hazel eyes I'd ever seen. The nurses handed her to me, and in that moment, nothing else mattered. Not my fears, not Vivian, just her. She looked up at me like she already knew I was her safe place. Caleb cried harder than I did. He kept whispering, "She's perfect. You did it, babe." The next day, our room was full. Flowers, balloons, nurses checking in, my dad on FaceTime, June crying from hundreds of miles away. Even Vivian showed up, dressed in beige from head to toe, not a hair out of place. She walked in, looked at me briefly, then straight at Luna in my arms, and that's when I saw it. That flicker in her eyes, doubt, judgment. Like Luna was a puzzle that didn't fit her idea of the Monroe family. She didn't say anything at first, she just kept staring. Something about that moment made the hairs on my arms stand up. I handed Luna to Caleb and leaned back. Vivian stepped closer, her arms folded, and that's when she said it. "This baby can't be our blood." When she said it, "This baby can't be our blood," it was like someone cracked a window in the room and all the warmth got sucked out. No one moved. Caleb froze mid-step, halfway between the bassinet and the chair by my bed. A nurse standing by the monitors raised her eyebrows and quietly stepped out, probably to avoid getting caught in whatever this was about to become. I looked at Vivian. She wasn't angry. That would have been easier. She was calm, cold, like she'd just stated a fact. Caleb finally spoke hesitantly. "Mom, what are you talking about?" She took a step closer to him, lowering her voice slightly. "Look at her, Caleb. Just look at her. She doesn't look anything like you, or me, or anyone in this family. Hazel eyes, olive skin. She's not a Monroe. I don't know whose child this is, but she's not ours." I sat there, stunned. Not because she questioned the baby's appearance. I had expected some sort of comment from her. But the outright accusation? In front of Caleb? In a hospital room where I was still bleeding, still recovering, still healing from a literal war my body had just survived? Caleb turned to me. His face said what he didn't have the courage to voice yet. "Is there any truth to this?" That was the part that stung. I'd never cheated on him, never so much as looked at another man. I'd loved Caleb with everything I had, even when his mother made me feel like I wasn't good enough, even when I sat through dinners where she ignored my presence like I was invisible. I had put my heart on the line for this family, and now she was taking a scalpel to it. I cleared my throat. My voice came out steady, sharper than I expected. "You're not seriously listening to this, are you?" Caleb didn't answer. Vivian crossed her arms, turning back to me. "I just want to protect my son. And this family. If you have nothing to hide, then you shouldn't have a problem with a paternity test." It wasn't a question. It was a challenge. I looked down at Luna. She was asleep now, tiny fingers curled into her hospital blanket, completely unaware of the storm brewing around her. That's when something shifted in me. Not rage. I wasn't going to scream. Not fear. I had nothing to hide. It was clarity. Cold, clear resolve. I met Vivian's gaze and said, "Fine. Do the test. But when the results come back and you find out you were wrong, I hope you realize you just questioned your granddaughter's place in this family on the day she was born." Caleb stepped forward like he wanted to say something, but all he managed was, "Elira, just let's not fight, okay?" Vivian gave me a tight, satisfied smile. "Good, I'll arrange it." She turned to leave the room like she hadn't just detonated a bomb in it. Once she was gone, it was like everything started moving again. The air returned. The machines beeped. Caleb sat down next to me, silent. He looked at Luna, then at me. "You know she's wrong, right?" he said finally. I nodded. "I do." "Do you?" He didn't answer right away, and that silence said more than words ever could. I turned away from him, not because I didn't love him, but because in that moment, I needed to protect something more important. My daughter's truth. My truth. I couldn't fall apart. Not now. The next morning, a hospital social worker came in and offered to refer us to a third-party genetic lab that did same-day testing. Caleb agreed. So did I. Vivian insisted on being there when the results were delivered. Of course she did. That night, I held Luna close and whispered into her ear, "They can question whatever they want. But I know you. I know every heartbeat I carried, every kick, every craving. You're mine, no matter what anyone says." By the next morning, I was done being quiet. I didn't sleep much that night. Luna was in and out of rest, and every time I closed my eyes, I kept hearing Vivian's voice. "This baby can't be our blood." Over and over, like a crack in the wall that wouldn't stop spreading. I watched Caleb sleep in the corner chair, curled up in the world's most uncomfortable hospital recliner, his hoodie pulled over his face. He looked exhausted, not just from the delivery, but from being in the middle, caught between the woman he married and the mother who raised him. At sunrise, I buzzed the nurse and asked when we could discharge. I wanted to go home. I needed my own bed, my own air. I needed to be away from the coldness of that room and start rebuilding the warmth we lost in it. But before we left, I called the genetic testing lab the hospital had referred us to. I didn't wait for Caleb to suggest it. I didn't wait for permission. I just did it. I set up the appointment. All three of us, me, Caleb, and Luna. When I told Caleb, he hesitated. "Are you sure we need to do this?" "You know the truth. I know the truth. This is just my mom stirring stuff up." I looked at him hard. "Then let her drown in her own doubt. Let her hear the truth in black and white, from someone who wears a lab coat and doesn't give a damn about last names or skin tones." He nodded slowly. "Okay, we'll do it." So we went. The lab was quiet, clinical, tucked inside a bland office building downtown. We sat in a small waiting area under flickering fluorescent lights, Luna asleep in her carrier between us. I couldn't stop staring at her. She was so calm, so unaware of what we were doing. A technician came in, young, probably no older than June, and explained the process. Mouth swabs for all three of us. Simple, painless, fast. Caleb went first, then me, then Luna. Vivian didn't come, though she had insisted on being there when the results arrived. She said she trusted the process, but wanted to see it officially. I think she wanted a dramatic reveal, like some bad courtroom scene where she could point and say, "I knew it." What she didn't expect, what none of us expected, was what the results would actually reveal. We went home and waited. I fed Luna, changed her, held her on my chest while the sunlight moved slowly across our bedroom wall. I could feel my heartbeat matching hers, steady. Sure, I wasn't scared. I was tired. Not of motherhood, not of proving myself, just tired of the fact that this moment even had to exist. 2 days later, we got a call from the lab. Results were in. Caleb answered, then handed the phone to me. His hands were shaking. They told us to come in person to review everything. "There's a secondary finding we need to explain in person," the woman said. "Secondary finding?" I felt something tighten in my chest, but I nodded. "Okay, we'll be there." Vivian insisted on coming this time. She showed up at the lab 15 minutes early wearing sunglasses indoors, like this was some red carpet scandal she was about to uncover. I didn't say a word to her. Caleb gave her a half hug out of habit, and we all walked in. The same technician greeted us, this time joined by a genetic counselor. That detail alone sent a shiver up my spine. People don't bring in specialists unless something's not simple. We sat in a tiny consultation room, all four of us. The technician opened a folder. I watched her hands, calm, precise, as she flipped through the pages. She looked at us and said, "We have your results, and yes, Luna is Caleb's biological daughter. No doubt. Gusibgu jom gugugugu posentu mechi." I exhaled. Caleb blinked and looked at his mother. Vivian's face didn't move. No apology, no reaction, just stone. But then the counselor cleared her throat and added, "However, we did uncover an unexpected result while reviewing Caleb's genetic data, and it's something you should all be aware of." The room went still again. According to our findings, Caleb is not biologically related to the woman he believes is his mother. That time, even Vivian flinched. The words hit the room like a car crash. Caleb is not biologically related to the woman he believes is his mother. Silence. Vivian blinked. Once. Slowly, like someone had just spoken to her in a language she didn't recognize. "I'm sorry. What did you just say?" she asked, her voice cracking for the first time in my entire history of knowing her. The counselor repeated it, this time with less emphasis. "The genetic markers show no maternal connection between Caleb and yourself, Mrs. Monroe. We reran the test twice to confirm." I stared at Caleb. His whole body had gone still, like someone had just unplugged him. No blinking, no speaking, just frozen. I could see the color draining from his face. That can't be right," Vivian said, her voice tightening. "There must be a mistake. I was there when he was born. I remember holding him." The counselor nodded gently. "I understand how shocking this must be, but the science is very clear. Caleb and Elira's daughter, Luna, are genetically matched as father and daughter, but the maternal comparison between you and Caleb, there's no match." Vivian looked like the ground beneath her had shifted. For once, she wasn't in control of the conversation. "So you're saying I'm not his mother?" The counselor took a breath. "We're not saying you didn't raise him. We're saying you didn't give birth to him." Caleb finally spoke, his voice hoarse. "Then who did?" No one answered. Because no one in that room knew. The counselor explained it was possible Caleb was switched at birth. It's rare, but it happens. Maybe it was a clerical mistake, maybe something else. They couldn't confirm the exact circumstances. They only knew what the test said. I looked at Vivian, and for the first time, I didn't see arrogance. I saw confusion, grief, maybe even fear, and it hit me. This wasn't just a twist in my story. It was a fracture in hers. "All this time," Caleb muttered, staring at the floor, "you raised me, and I'm not even your—" Vivian stood up suddenly. "Don't you dare finish that sentence. I don't care what that paper says. I am your mother. I raised you. I loved you. I held you through chickenpox and soccer injuries and heartbreaks. I gave you my life." Her voice cracked at the end. Caleb looked up at her, tears in his eyes. "Then why did you try to tear mine apart?" Vivian said nothing, and I finally spoke. "Luna is yours whether you like it or not. Not because of DNA, but because she's a part of your son, and because she was born into this family, the one we've tried to build despite everything." I turned to the counselor. "Are we done here?" She nodded. "We'll provide written copies of the results. If you'd like to be referred to a legal team or therapist, we can—" "We're done," Caleb said quietly. We left the lab with Luna tucked in my arms, sleeping peacefully as if none of this ever touched her. Caleb didn't say a word on the car ride home. He just stared out the window, holding the test papers in his lap. Vivian didn't ride with us. She walked to her car alone. For once she didn't speak, didn't throw out one last word to make herself feel bigger. She just looked at Caleb and whispered, "I didn't know." And for the first time in years, I believed her. When we got home, Caleb went into the nursery and sat by Luna's crib. I watched him run his finger gently along her tiny arm and tuck her in a little tighter. I sat beside him. "What are you thinking?" I asked. He shook his head. "That I don't know who I am anymore. But I know who she is. And I know who you are. And maybe that's enough to start over." We sat there in silence, the three of us. A new kind of silence. Not cold or cruel, but healing. Maybe family isn't what you're born into. Maybe it's what you choose to fight for. Life didn't magically go back to normal after that day. If anything, it cracked open. But sometimes, cracks let the light in. The days after the DNA results were strangely quiet. No more texts from Vivian, no calls, no comments. Caleb didn't push it. I didn't either. It was like something broke between them, something unspoken and sacred, and neither of them knew how to pick up the pieces. But I wasn't focused on her anymore. I had a daughter now, a tiny, bright-eyed miracle who changed everything. Every soft coo she made, every middle-of-the-night feeding, every sleepy smile reminded me that this was real, not tests, not accusations, not bloodlines, her. I remember sitting in the nursery one evening, holding Luna while the sound machine played Ocean Waves. Caleb stood in the doorway, holding 2 mugs of tea. "She looks like you when she sleeps," he said quietly. I smiled. "You think so?" He nodded, walking over and sitting beside me. Same forehead crease, same stubborn little chin. He paused, looking down. "I don't know who my biological mother is. I don't even know if I want to know, but I do know this. You never once made me question if I belonged to you. Not once." That meant more than he probably realized. We didn't talk much about Vivian after that. She reached out once. An email. 3 paragraphs. Half apology, half explanation. She wrote that she was sorry for doubting Luna's place in the family, but that she was shaken by the test and needed time to process. I read it. I didn't reply, because I was also processing. Not just what happened, but everything that led up to it. The years of trying to fit into a family that measured love by similarity. The way I'd bent myself into smaller shapes just to be tolerated. And the moment I finally stopped, the moment I stood up for my daughter, for myself, the truth came out. Funny how that works. I started seeing a therapist a few weeks later, not because I was falling apart, but because I wanted to understand why I let myself hold on to someone else's approval for so long. It was hard, but it helped. I realized Vivian wasn't the root of my pain. She was a mirror of it, and I didn't need her reflection anymore. Caleb and I grew stronger, not right away. There were long talks at 2 a.m., quiet dinners with more silence than words, and moments where the weight of everything nearly split us. But we chose each other, again and again, day by day. That's what love really is, not just the butterflies, but the rebuilding. My dad flew in to meet Luna when she was 3 months old. He held her in his big, calloused hands like she was the most delicate thing he'd ever touched. "She's got your eyes, kid," he said, "and your fire." June sent us a scrapbook she made by hand, full of photos, notes, and affirmations. On the cover, she wrote, "Family isn't blood. It's proof." I hung it on the nursery wall. Vivian hasn't met Luna again. Maybe one day, maybe not. But I don't lose sleep over it, because now I know you don't need someone's approval to be whole. You don't need their permission to love, to parent, to protect. You just need truth and heart and the courage to hold your ground even when your world tilts. And that's what Luna gave me. The moment she arrived, she gave me a reason to stop shrinking. I look at her now. One hand always curled into her blanket, those bright hazel eyes exploring everything. And I feel a kind of peace I never thought I'd earn. This is my family. It's not perfect. It's not traditional. But it's ours. And no one can take that from me. If this story moved you, even just a little, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever had to defend your truth when no one else believed you? Drop a comment below. I read everyone. And if you felt something while listening, if this reminded you of your own journey or gave you a new way to see family, please give the video a thumbs up. It helps more than you know. Share it with someone who needs to hear that blood isn't the only thing that makes a family. And if you're new here, or just passing through, hit that subscribe button. I've got more stories coming, real ones, raw ones, about love, identity, motherhood, healing, and the messy, beautiful ways life surprises us. Thanks for watching. And remember, your truth is never something to be ashamed of.